Hello there students, how are you? I wish you a lovely day and accepted fasting inshallah. After finishing the morphemes in general, today we are going to talk about chapter 14, noun and verb phrases. Before that, I want you to know what's the meaning of a phrase in general. A phrase is a group of words that's a part of a sentence. So a phrase is a part of sentence. And also, it's smaller than a sentence and clause as well. The phrase is smaller than a sentence and a clause as well. Now, what's the meaning of noun phrases? A noun phrase consists of a noun and all the words and word groups that belong with a noun and cluster around it. Cluster means grouped together or comes together. The noun itself called the head word or head, and the other words and word groups are modifiers of the noun. So we have here two new idioms, head or head word and modifiers. Let's take this example to know what's the meaning of head and what's the meaning of modifiers. The yellow flower, the yellow article, yellow adjective, flower, noun. The article there is regarded here as a modifier. By the way, what's the meaning of modifier? You may ask now, what's the meaning of modifier? A modifier is a word that is used with another word to limit or add to its meaning. Again, a modifier is a word that is used with another word. Why? To limit or to add to its meaning. So here, the is regarded as a modifier. Yellow, it's adjective, but in this sentence is regarded also a modifier. We have here two modifiers for the head or for the noun. The noun flower. Flower here is regarded as a head or head word. So the and yellow are modifiers of the head, which is flower. Here we have the modifier, yellow modifier, flower is the head or head word. So this is the yellow flowers in general is regarded as a noun phrase. The yellow flower is a noun phrase. This is just a small definition. This is just a simple definition of a noun phrase and a simple example in order to know the exact meaning of a noun phrase. Let's move to verb phrases in general. A verb phrase consists of a verb and all the words and word groups that belong with the verb and cluster around it. Cluster, as I mentioned before, it means comes together or grouped. The verb itself called the head word. Here the verb called head word, but in the noun phrase the noun itself called head or head word or head, and the other words here in the verb phrase and word groups are the auxiliaries. They might be auxiliaries or modifiers and complements of the verb. So we have three options here. The other words and word groups might be auxiliaries or modifiers or complements of the verb. We have three options in the verb phrase. I'll repeat the definition again. A verb phrase consists of a verb and all the words and word groups that belong with the verb and cluster around it. The verb itself called the head word or head, and the other words and word groups are the auxiliaries, modifiers, and complements of the verb. Let's see those examples. For example, the verb phrase spoke loudly. Spoke loudly here is a verb phrase. Consists of two things. Spoke, it's a verb, and it's called here a head or head word. Spoke here is a head or head word, whereas loudly here is regarded as a modifier. This is a modifier. Move to the second example. Was waiting at the door. Was waiting at the door. Was here is regarded as an auxiliary because here we have three options in the verb phrase. They might be auxiliaries, modifiers, or complements. Was is regarded an auxiliary. Waiting here sorry, waiting here is regarded as a head or head word, and at the door here is a modifier. So in this verb phrase we have what? We have auxiliary, modifier, and head word. Head word, the main word or the main verb in this sentence, which is waiting. Turn to the third example. Seemed gloomy and dejected. Seemed here is a main verb, and we call the main verb as a head or head. Gloomy and dejected. Gloomy and dejected here is regarded as complement of the verb seemed. So here gloomy and dejected are complements of the word or of the verb seemed. Move to the fourth example. Became a president of his class. Became here also is regarded as a head because this is the main verb of the noun phrase. Here is regarded as a head or head word. A president of his class, all this is regarded as a complement. Complement of what? Complement of a head, which is became. So became a head, and a president of his class, all of those words are regarded as a complement. This is just also a simple definition of noun phrase and some examples in order to know what's the difference between noun phrase and verb phrase and how could you deal with those two things. Move to a very important subject, which is subject-verb relationship or subject-verb agreement. There should be or there has to be a correspondence between the subject and the verb. How? For example, the noun, which is the subject, is tied to or agrees with the verb. Agrees with the verb. In this example, the teacher holds class every day. If we change the subject here from the singular form into the plural form, the teacher becomes teachers. We have to change also holds into hold. So we have to omit the third person singular. You may ask why? Because as I said before, there should be a correspondence. There should be an agreement between the subject of the sentence and the verb. There should be an agreement, and it's a must. If we change the word teacher, this word teacher, to the plural teachers, we must change the verb holds here, the verb holds, we must change it to hold. This tie test, this is a type of test or a sort of test, is the most generally useful way to identify the subject in various kinds of sentences, regardless of the position of the subject. Here we have another test. Also, there is a simple rule to identify the subject of the verb. How could we identify the subject of the verb? Sometimes the subject of the verb doesn't come first. Maybe it comes at the end of the sentence or in the middle. Ask who plus verb or what plus verb. For example, the teacher holds class every day. if we do this rule or this test, we should add who or what. Here we have to add who, not what. Who holds? This is just a test. Who holds? The teacher, of course. So, or hence, the teacher is the subject. This is a simple way to identify the subject of the sentence. In this sentence, the teacher holds a class every day. We can ask who holds. The teacher holds, so the teacher is the subject of the sentence. This is just a simple definitions and examples of noun phrase, verb phrase, and the subject-verb agreement. I don't want you to go deeper in this subject because we are going to talk about them in details later in the next chapters. So for now, I want you just to know what's the meaning of noun phrase and verb phrase and the agreement between the subject and verb. Thanks for watching and listening, and goodbye.